Hello folks. Well, let's get back up here and build a fire. Got a little forging I want to do today. I want to do a little different kind of a blade. I want to forge sort of a Persian style blade. Maybe like a 7-inch blade, fighter type knife. Something with a lot of curves. I don't want a straight edge anywhere on this blade. So, to start off with, I've got some 3/16 thick 1095 steel. That's what we're going to be using for our starting stock. Going to use the power hammer. Going to use the anvil. Let's go build a fire, get it going, see what happens. Okay, we're just going to start out by insetting what's going to be the transition between the heel of the blade and the start of the handle, our little finger choil. Just using a piece of 4140 round stock to fuller down into the steel. Now I'm going to use it going back along the handle to just start a little bit of a taper. I'm just going to do the roughing out on the power hammer, going to do all the finish forging on the anvil. You see we've got our handle roughed out. And it's about 3.5-ish. Gonna have to stretch that out. I'm gonna start my taper for the point of the blade. Want kind of a long swept tip on this thing, so we're gonna draw a taper pretty long. Even it back up, and time to go to the anvil. And work that tip down. Want a nice long taper. Needs a little more. Got our thickness nice and even. Warm it back up, and we're going to start drop forged. We're going to knock in a reverse curve on this blade. Even though I want a little recurve in this blade, I want it. I don't want a straight blade at all. I don't want just a big, long swept blade. So we're going to have to knock a little bit of reverse curve in to make up for the way the blade shape will change when I drop forged it again. To make up for the way the blade shape will change when I hammer in our bevels. I'm going to start hammering in the bevels. I don't want the bevel to come really high up on the knife. I want kind of a wide flat along the spine that I can leave brute to forge finished. And just polish the bevel on this particular blade. So I'm not going to bring that bevel up very high. It's still going to have enough taper on the edge to make a really nice sharp slicing blade. But I really want a wide band of brute to forge finish on the blade when I'm finished with it. Just to offset it, just to make it something a little different. And by brute de forge, I mean that I'm going to polish the bevels, and there will be an area along the flat of the blade up to the spine that I'll just leave the forge scale on. I'll leave it black. I'll leave in a few hammer marks. Just leave it as forged instead of polishing it out. Just continuing to work our bevel right now. And you can see how that's changing the shape of the blade. It's taking that little bend right out of it, straightening it up. Working both sides. We're going to work our bevel on out toward the tip. And I am forging this edge fairly thin, not terribly thin, but fairly thin. I'm gonna change the shape of this blade a little bit. I really want the tip swept up a little more, but I've got the edge forged so thin now that if I just hammer flat along the steel of the anvil to change the profile, I'm gonna mess this blade up. So we're gonna have to break out another little trick. Got a piece of 2x4 pine, and instead of forging along the edge of the anvil, I'm forging onto that pine, and that'll help take out a lot of the deformation in this blade. And you can see that instead of using a hammer, I've got a long piece of round hardwood that I'm using as a mallet to work that steel. We've got our profile where we want it. Now it's time to just flatten everything up. Make sure our taper is good and steady for our distal taper from the heel of the blade out to the tip. Make sure everything's straight. Blade's good, so now we'll move on to the handle. So I had my preform already done. Now all I've got to do is come in here and work in a little bit of contour into this handle. Make sure my taper's good. As I'm working this contour in, this handle's stretching out. So we're at like 3 3/4-ish inches with just the preform for the handle. And I'm shooting for around 4.5 for the total length of the handle. It's not looking too bad. Let's just see what we've got for a measurement. Oh, there we go. There's our square. And yeah, right at 4 3/8, which is pretty good. Now we're just going to make sure everything is flat. Make sure everything's straight. I need to put a touch mark on this thing. Got to get it straight first. There's no such thing as getting a blade too straight. Just take your time if your blade has a little bend in it and just work it out. All right, let's warm it back up. Put my touch mark in the blade. Everything was already fairly straight, so it'll only take a second here to just tap it back in line. And yeah, that's not looking too bad. It'll only take just a little cleanup on the grinder. All right, so we got that done. And here she is. Ready for a heat treat. Nice and curvy, just the way I wanted it. I'll put a good polish on the edge if I don't bring the whole thing to a bright satin. I'll just polish the edge. We'll slap the handles on it. We'll call it good enough. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure and hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe for future content. Leave us a comment in the comment section. Share the video. Thanks, everybody. God bless and have a great day.